2, 1.
Lap.
You can do it. It's 4.7 seconds. 5.6 seconds. It's a one of a kind. Only the DTM. Yes, man, you did it. Thank you, guys. Go, 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 go. Yeah!
Hello and welcome from Oschersleben in Germany. It's a 7th race weekend and we had a fantastic, exciting race yesterday where BMW was extremely strong. Let's see what today brings. Fact is, the man who won here last year is Christian Vittoris from Mercedes-Benz. Now, Christian, yesterday wasn't too ideal for you, P18, but however, today you're starting in P8, so it's looking a lot better. What are you hoping for? What can we expect from you today in the race?
Yeah, yesterday was really difficult for us, and especially for me and my small team around me. Yeah, we just couldn't find the right balance in the car. Overnight we made a step forward. We are now on pace and I'm looking forward to the race. I think we can score some very good and very important points. Yeah, P5, P6, something like that is possible for sure.
All right, well, best of luck, Christian. Thank you very much. And now let's first have a look at the summary of yesterday's race. Dave Richardson.
Thank you, Verena. Well, the lights went out and Timo Glock and Augusto Farfus on the front row of the grid with Tom Blomqvist right behind. And going into the pinch point, which is the first turn here at Oschersleben, it was Timo Glock. There was a big lock-up. And that sent Tom Blomqvist backwards, unfortunately. But Timo Glock managed to get through whilst the rest were all losing their heads, as you can see. And that's where Tom Blomqvist just avoided the gravel. Unfortunately, Jamie Green didn't avoid going round, and Robert Wickens was brought under investigation for causing that collision as the cars were taken through the pit lane to avoid the area where there was lots of debris. When eventually we did get restarted, Bruno Spangler then moved up into P2. Robert Wickens lost quite a lot of the bodywork on his car, which brought out the safety car once again.
Safety car, Timo, it's another safety car. Safety car, be careful, there are other debris.
So it was a retirement for the Robert Wickens car. Sadly, it was also a retirement for Jamie Green. It wouldn't be long before Gary Paffett and Mike Rockenfeller went the same way. Whilst that was all going on, this man was not putting a foot wrong. Timo Glock and Bruno Spangler, despite everything he could throw at it, just couldn't get on terms. Pascal Wehrlein with a technical problem towards the end of the race, and he was having to drive through that problem, which was all to do with the power steering. Matthias Ekstrom was way down the order, and of course Pascal Wehrlein and Matthias Ekstrom, the two battlers in the points championship as we reach the sharp end of this championship. Daniel Juncadella on Eduardo Mortara, who was another one that came into the pit lane with 5 minutes left to run in the race. So Timo Glock, it was going to be a pole to flag a victory for the BMW driver, who took his second career DTM win from pole position. There was plenty of celebrations. So with Timo Glock now is Verena as we look at the order.
Yes, here is the man who had a perfect day yesterday from pole to finish. Today you're starting from P7, so 2 questions. What are you going to do to go all the way to the front from P7? And second of all, did you party yesterday, like you promised?
No, we didn't party, but we enjoyed the time. And as I said yesterday, you know, today is a new day. You need to be ready for it. And we had a good qualifying. I think the lap was good until the last corner where I made a little mistake. Otherwise, we would have been further up, I think. But the race pace was good. We just need to have a clear first lap and a good pace, and then we should be in the mix.
Well, best of luck for the race. Thank you, Timo. And now back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Verena. As we see the grid there, and we saw the summary from race 1 as we see Timo Scheider then just preparing himself. Alongside me is David Addison, and we saw the Robert Wickens incident yesterday, for which he was punished, and subsequently is much, much further down the order, isn't he?
Yeah, he, like Mike Rockenfeller, got a 3-place grid drop. Trouble was that Robert Wickens had a 10-place penalty suspended from Moscow. That's been brought into play as well, so 13 places cumulatively, and that puts him right to the back of the grid that looks, Dave, like this.
Pole position, it's another BMW lockout. Augusto Farfus and Tom Blomqvist.
The second row of the grid, championship leader Pascal Wehrlein, Antonio Felix da Costa's BMW for company.
To the third row we go, where we see Paul de Resta, Marco Wittmann, of course, the current champion, alongside him.
Then you find yesterday's winner, Timo Glock, and last year's winner, Christian Vitoris.
Then it's Miguel Molina and Bruno Spangler going from P9 and P10.
11th on the grid is where you find one of the 8 champions, Gary Paffett. Another former champion, Martin Tomczyk, will start 12th.
It's Jamie Green, P13, and Maxime Martin from P14.
Then Edo Mortara and Mike Rockenfeller factoring in for his Audi the 3-place grid drop.
Next up, it's Luca Sauer and Matthias Ekstrom with a lot of work to do from P18.
An error in qualifying not helping his case, but he's ahead of Maximilian Goetz and returning Timo Scheider.
Then we see Nico Müller and Daniel Juncker-Dea, Audi and Mercedes alongside each other there.
The back of the grid, Adrian Tombe and Robert Wickens, it is at the very back. But at the very front is Augusto Farfus, and he's with Verena.
He is in the perfect position, obviously. Augusto, yesterday you had a good 4th place. Today, pole position. What does your gut feeling say about snatching victory today, maybe?
Well, we are here to of course, win the race. Starting from pole position is a good, it's the best you can get. We have a good car. I'm confident, want to get a good start and push as hard as I can.
Sure you will. Best of luck, Augusto. Thank you. Back to you.
Well, he's going to push as hard as he can. And he was very, very happy after qualifying. His family enjoying that opposition as well. As we see many of the other drivers in preparations. There's Mike Rockenfeller, who has been affected then by grid drop. And Mike Rockenfeller with certainly work to do from his position on the grid. P16, David, another former champion.
Indeed so, and a winner this year, of course, as Jamie Green gets ready. Jamie, 3 wins at the start of the season, but it's all unravelled a bit since then.
You were having a conversation with Jamie over dinner last night, and he was mentioning about the weights that the Audis are carrying, wasn't he?
Yeah, the conversation was more actually about his brother in stock car racing than the DTM, I've got to confess. But actually, Jamie was saying, OK, he didn't finish yesterday, but given the weight that they're carrying based on previous results, it wasn't that he lost out on the chance of a win. It was more the fact that he lost out on points towards the bottom end of the top 10. So, yeah, it would have been nice to finish, but in real terms, he didn't lose out that badly in the championship, but it's never nice to be taken out of a race. And so he's hoping, as you see Gary Paffett with Esteban Ocon standing in the background, getting ready. Jamie Green is hoping for better fortune today. Just to make the point about weights, because the heaviest cars are going to be the Audis of Matthias Ekstrom, Edo Mortara and Mike Rockenfeller, 1137.5 kilos. The next heaviest is Jamie Green on 1132.5. The lightest, Bruno Spangler, Timo Glock, Tom Blomqvist, Maxime Martin, Martin Tomczyk on 1105. So 30.5 kilos lighter than some of the heavier Audis. Where does Pascal Wehrlein fit in? He's on 1130. He's at the heavy end, but he's not the heaviest. And the poleman, Augusto Farfus, has got, if you like, an extra 2.5 kilos over and above the base weight. He's on 1107.5.
Big differences, isn't it? When you start talking about, the difference between the heaviest and the lightest and what they're expected to carry around as well. Christian Vitoris there, who was talking to Verena just earlier on. He'll be hoping for better things today.
And the weather is being strange. The forecast initially was that it was going to be a nice hot sunny day. Then we had a forecast this morning saying it was going to be showery. Lunchtime, really hot, not a cloud in the sky. It has clouded over quite a lot, and it's cooler than it was a good hour ago. I'm not suggesting it's going to rain, but it is certainly possible that it's going to be a little cooler, and that might just help the teams and their tyres as we get ready to go racing at Oschersleben.
So it's a big, big crowd to enjoy the DTM race here at Oschersleben. And there is the grid: Farfus, Blomqvist, Wehrlein, Felix da Costa, De Resto, Wittmann. Then it's Glock, Vitoris, Molina, Spengler, Paffett, Tomczyk with Green, Martin, Mortara, Rockenfeller, Auer, Ekstrom, Gertz, Scheider, Muller, Juncker-Deyer, Tombe and Robert Wickens occupying the second page of that start grid. So, yeah, it's cooler today than it was earlier because the wind has got up a bit, the cloud cover has come over, and I just wonder what an effect that will have, because there is some cloud around. I was talking to someone earlier with regards to the weather conditions for today, and he suggested that there was the potential of showers all day. We've seen no evidence of that during the course of the day, but there is a bit more cloud cover now than there once was as we look at Paul de Resta.
Now factor in that this is the longer race of the two that you have over the weekend. It is 1 hour plus 1 lap with 1 pit stop as well. And the maximum number of laps that you can do on a set of the tyres is 31. So you can go to 31 laps as a maximum. And we'll come back to pit stops and how that might affect things in a moment after we've heard from Audi's Dieter Gas.
Dieter Gas, now terrible weekend for Matthias Ekström. It's got to be said. He lost his leadership in the championship, and today for the race you only have 1 car in the top 10, and that is Molina in P10. Are you hoping that maybe the weather is going to help you out here a bit?
Normally I don't, but I think today I wouldn't complain if it did, yes. It's basically one of the few hopes that we have to be able to come forward. But still, we have Miguel in the top 10. We have a few ideas how to help him furthermore, so maybe we can get him a little bit more forward as well in a normal race.
All right, well, best of luck, Dieter Gas. Thank you very much, Dave.
He'd certainly be happy with a few drops of rain, wouldn't he?
Just look down to the grid and see if anyone's doing a rain dance. It's not looking threatening, but it's certainly not looking like it's going to be a necessarily long sunny afternoon. Tom Blomqvist then, his best DTM qualifying, putting him for this grid on second spot. He knows the circuit because he tested here pre-season, and he's raced here as well in the German F3 Cup. It's been a bit of a trying time, to be fair, for Tom Blomqvist this year, but he's been thrown into a very, very competitive environment. The pole man then, Augusto Farfus. Different teams, of course, across each of the manufacturers that run the cars, but just like yesterday's race was a 1-2 for the MTech team, the grid here is a 1-2 for Racing Bart Mampe, the RBM cars.
So brilliant heli shot then, and this is the situation in the Drivers' Championship, which it's really closing up nicely, isn't it? Pascal Wehrlein on 130 points. He took that lead away from Matthias Ekström, who's now 4 points behind on 126. Eduardo Mortara on 110. Jamie Green on 103 with Bruno Spangler. Now, you know, we said yesterday with Bruno Spangler's finish where it was, it kind of brought him back into it a little bit, didn't it? So, of course, adding to that advantage that Spangler took yesterday with his points, very good points finish, is the fact that Matthias Ekström had a real mare yesterday.
Didn't score at all. And BMW's Day of Days was presided over yesterday by Jens Marquardt, who's with Verena.
Wow, after a fantastic day yesterday, today is looking really good for you as well. You secured the front row. You've got 5 BMWs in the top 10. So are you pretty confident that today is going to be just brilliant as well?
Well, you never know. It's racing. And you have to go through the first corner. But obviously, looking at the first 5-6 rows, there is enough BMWs to hopefully get through it cleanly. And then hopefully with the front row we can secure that through the first lap, and then I think it's already a good first start, and then we'll see.
All right, best of luck. Thank you very much, Jens Marquardt. And now let's get ready for racing. So back to you guys.
Oh, I expected to rumble at the end of that. Let's get ready to rumble. Well, it is getting very, very close to race start time. Farfus, Blomqvist, Wehrlein, Felix da Costa, De Resta, Wittmann, Glock, Vitoris, Molina, and Spangler, the top 10. And as the grid is cleared, this, of course, as David has said, it's the longer race. It's the race with the mandatory pit stop. And we know here it's a very long pit in. And I can recall this very race last year, how important that pit stop was, David.
Because you, last year had a race that was damp before it started and then it got wetter. Some people elected to start on wet tyres and others had to pit early to go from slicks to wets, and those that had to make a second stop, in other words the regulation pit stop, were really stymied. And it was Christian Vittoris who came from the pit lane, having pitted at the end of the green flag lap onto wet tyres, who won the race. Well, this year it's bone dry. As we say, it's a little bit cooler than it was earlier on, but that's to everybody's benefit as the cars blast away from the grid. It's a great circuit for the fans, this, because wherever you stand pretty much you can see more than one corner, but the downside is that it's fiddly on which to overtake, and it's relatively narrow as well, so overtaking is not easy. This is one place that you can overtake, but it's also on the first lap a real pinch point, and although the fans like it because it does deliver action, the drivers really don't like it.
No, that's a fair point. And just to go back to what you were saying about the track being quite fiddly, it's a track that's on a relatively small piece of land, isn't it? Hence the fiddly nature of it, if you like. DRS yesterday, you know, it's all very well having DRS, but you know, it didn't really advantage any overtaking opportunities, did it? Very much. You could get up onto the back of somebody potentially, but you then still got to find a way around, and that wasn't easy. Because
the real place that you want to do it is going to be down to turn one, but it's so difficult to make the pass and then slow down in time to make the corner. Yeah. DRS gives you another 4 kilometers an hour in a straight line. May not sound a lot, but if you factor it into the fact that you've got a braking zone into an 80 kilometer an hour 90 left corner, then it becomes an issue. And on Friday, when the cars ventured out first for free practice, within the first 15 minutes we had a red flag because Christian Vittoris was off the road, and he was about the 8th person to make a mistake. Augusto Farfus, who was second in the queue, started his first flying lap by going straight up the escape road. And it carried on from there, didn't it? There's lots of people that just pushed too hard. So this is the lap. It's 3.6 kilometers long. The slowest corner is turn 1, which is that 90 left that takes you into the loop right. Fastest corner is known as triple. It's the left-hander with effectively 3 apices to it. That's 195 kilometers an hour. You do 223 clicks on the back straight. DRS, as I've said, gives you 4 kilometers an hour extra, and the lap is divided quite equally. 7 left-handers, 7 right-handers, and that's 21 gear changes per lap.
Thank you. So on board with Bruno Spangler, who we look at right now. This is Timo Glock, Victor from yesterday, Polestar from yesterday as well, and Timo Glock running from P7 on this occasion as Farfus really lights up the rear tyres.
Now remember, at Zandvoort he had a pole position, and what let him down was an average start. It wasn't an appalling start, but it was a bit undercooked, and he's got here to make sure he gets off the line well. But I think this is a fascinating race because you, in prospect, you factor in Farfus, who we know is good, but he's not had the best of seasons. Blomqvist running in surroundings he's not been before this year, and then you've got Wehrlein as the championship leader. I wouldn't be surprised if Wehrlein didn't come out on top here, and if he does, it would have been a big battle along the way. So, nervous faces up and down the pit lane as the 14th race of the year is set to go.
So once we get the green flag from the marshal right at the rear of the pack, when Robert Wickens has occupied that final position on the grid, we'll throw the lights to the top of the screen for you so that we can see the start sequence underway. We get that green flag, 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights, engine note rises, excitement and anticipation rises, and the lights are out, and we are away and racing. Martin Tromching trying to make a move already, Bruno. There is Tom Blomqvist, who's going to go into the first turn ahead of Augusto Farfus. Where's Pascal Wehrlein? He could be mugged here by Marco Wittmann.
Wehrlein's down to 5th, isn't he? Blomqvist leads, and there's drama because Moliner has gone around. Paffett's off in avoidance. Juncker is that off the road as well. Muller, I think, has been involved, and so we've got 2 cars off, 1 in the gravel. That's going to be a safety car, I fear, already. And again, Farfus has let himself down off the start.
Well, straight away then, Augusto Farfus lost the advantage he had, and it is Tom Blomqvist that leads the race. New to DTM for this year. Tom Blomqvist is leading with Augusto Farfus in P2, and there we can see the Molina car. This has got to be
bring the car back?
A safety car, surely, particularly with Muller as well.
Indeed, so it's got to be a safety car, but I'm surprised the boards aren't there yet. So they're coming down the back straight. The safety car boards are being prepared. The marshal's post in front of us. Safety car is on track. We are going to go safety car. It was inevitable, wasn't it?
Well, it was rather, even if Molina could have got going. The Nico Muller car, which was in the gravel there and up against the tyre barriers, we know now that any car that has got to be recovered, that's always going to be a safety car, and Nico Muller then, well, does but a few metres in this race, and that's true for Molina too. Here's a replay of the start. Farfus seemed to get away all right, but again, Tom Blomqvist got a better start, didn't he?
It's just like Zandvoort. He's good, but he's not good enough, Farfus. And Blomqvist lights up the tyres. It was a great start. Look, he's away like a robber's dog up the inside. And Farfus, a little bit late, tries to cover the move and has to let him by. What he now wants to do is put pressure on his teammate with less DTM experience. I mean, Blomqvist, look, was not quite so smooth going into turn 1 and sideways there coming out of it. Behind, Molina goes around and Muller basically just gets forced wider and wider, comes to a dead stop. There's nothing he can do about it. But how did Molina get there? He was given a tap by Spangler, wasn't he?
Just watching that replay of the start, Wehrlein didn't get a good getaway either. It wasn't bad, but it was a bit Farfus-esque, if you like.
Yeah, indeed. Now, this is Spangler. Let's see ahead of him. No, in fairness, it was Vitoris, I think, that hit Molina, and Spangler was close, but not actually the culprit. Apologies. And another look.
Well, there's Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, on the right without the headset, not overly amused, but of course it's Audi that's come off worse. We've lost 2 Audis in the first corner.
Yes.
And don't forget, Miguel Molina was the one that hopes were being pinned upon, because that was the best placed on the grid.
Indeed, going from, and there you can see he's pretty disappointed about that, but
Vitoris under investigation as well, Dave. Look for causing the collision. So,
well, I would have said that was Spangler until we saw that other replay, and you're absolutely right. It was Vitoris, and I think Muller was just almost a victim there, wasn't he? He'd got kind of nowhere.
Oh yeah,
to go. He got driven out onto the gravel, and
it was either drive into your teammate or try and give them room, and eventually the gravel. The gravel itself isn't the problem; it's the tyres ahead of you, because you just can't drive through those. So, if the tyre barrier wasn't there, I think people will be able to gun their way through the gravel with the momentum. Bring gravel on the road, yes, but at least there isn't the car stuck. But the tyre barrier is there to prevent people doing that. I'll have another look at it. Down 4 wide, look, mid-pack.
Yes.
And yeah, Vitoris does just glance Molina, but in fairness, he was coming under attack from the BMW, which I think was Tomczyk getting up the inside of him. And round goes Molina. And Lucas Auer had to take evasive action, and Nico Müller was on the outside of him.
You're right, Tomczyk was, it just gave Vitoris a little bit of a nudge going into that turn. That meant Vitoris went a bit wider than perhaps he would have liked to, so, you know.
But I'm afraid it's it's partly due to that corner.
Yes.
You know, it is such a tight left-hander, and we know that there's going to be drama. The drivers know that. They'll chance their arm to an extent. Well, the safety car is in this time. We'll go back to racing. Shall I get this out of the way now? Safety cars breed safety cars.
Yes.
So don't be surprised if there isn't more fun and games going into turn 1 this time around. And that slower start of it will just affect the pit stop window a little bit, but we'll worry about that in due course, because 31 laps is the most you can do on a set of tyres. Now, how do you play this? Do you come in early and hope that there's a late race safety car that you can take advantage of, or do you stay out to the end of the window and try and gain track position? That's for the teams to decide, and some, I suspect, will come in early and see whether there might be a late race drama. For now, though, the lights atop the safety car are out, and for the first time, Tom Blomqvist, as a DTM race leader, has to control a restart.
Indeed he does. So, Tom Blomqvist weaving from side to side. Augusto Farfus exactly not doing that at all, and it's going to be down to Tom then when he chooses to floor it now. And Augusto Farfus will try and anticipate that, and actually I think he anticipates it really well, because the gap has remained absolutely the same. Farfus has stuck with him as they're about to get this start back underway. Pascal Wehrlein, of course, one of those that needs to move up the order. He dropped down right at the very, very start. In fact, in that skirmish through the first turn. As we get the greens once again, we are away and racing.
There's a good little Audi fight developing, because for 12th and 13th you've got Green and Ekstrom together as they head down towards turn 1, and Green just stays ahead for the moment, but Blomqvist is able to stretch the advantage as they work their way out of turn 2 for the first time. At the back of the pack is Juncker there. He's on the tail of Auer. Rockenfeller is 20th with work to do, and there, look, Di Resta is under huge attack from Tomczyk.
Yes, well, Di Resta there. Another one of those that fell right at the start, but now he is right behind his Mercedes teammate Pascal Wehrlein. So, I wonder what sort of deal Paul Di Resta will have to play here in terms of trying to hold everyone up and allow Pascal Wehrlein to try and move forward. But, of course, what Pascal Wehrlein ahead of him has got is 4 BMWs.
Vittoris, no further action to be taken after the incident at the very start of the race as the field works its way to the fastest part of the circuit then. 230 kilometres you're getting on for as they head into the S's, and Blomqvist getting away from Farfus. Da Costa is third, fourth is Wittmann, so it's BMW 1, 2, 3, 4. Wehrlein is fifth, and then De Resta, as you say, lagging back a little bit, stacking them up behind him. In sixth is Tomczyk, seventh is Glock, eighth is Vittoris, ninth is Maxime Martin, and 10th Bruno Spangler as they work their way up towards the timing line. Through they come, wide goes Glock, kicks up the dirt. Blomqvist leading by 9/10 of a second as they head over the line.
So through into that hotel turn they go. It is Tom Blomqvist leading from Augusto Farfus, and then Jamie Green and Bruno Spangler side by side. Spangler does rattle back on, but he's going to lose places, isn't he? Because going through up on the inside is Matthias Ekström. Spangler piles on the opposite lock to try and control the car.
Here comes Robert Wickens, look out from the back of the grid, but both Green and Ekström have gone past him. Mortara's up the inside of Paffett, and they crossed swords yesterday, and Mortara was very condemnatory about Gary's driving, and they lean on each other, and bodywork flies, and Max Goetz buys into the battle in 84 Mercedes as well. Look, tries to get up the inside. Scheider is behind him. This is Robert Wickens' view. Now, he was behind Ekström at the start of the lap, but he's now staring at the back of Spengler's BMW. Wickens is in 14th place.
So as that whole train of cars goes through.
Out of the chicane, lap number 5.
Keep pushing, Bruno. The race is long. We can recover position. The race is long. Stay concentrated and keep pushing.
Bruno Spangler then flicks his way through the Shell S's, heading up towards the end of this, the 5th lap of the race. And up front, it's still Tom Blomqvist the leader. Now, this was a really brave effort by Jamie Green. Flings it up the inside. Spangler through the gravel. The line he's on was always going to leave the door open. Through went Ekström. Here it is again. Jamie Green, one of the more forceful moves I've ever seen Jamie pull, Matt. But no messing, he goes by. And this was Robert Wickens also trying to take full advantage of it as well. He saw Ekström go through, but the door was closed just in the nick of time. Whoa. Spangler off and back on again, and Ekström up the inside. Another look at Jamie Green in the Rosberg run car through at turn 1. Bits of Audi fly, Spangler through the gravel.
Just looking at the top 4 all running in the 123s. The only one that's running in the 124 is Pascal Wehrlein, who's the one that really needs to move forward, isn't he? Yeah, but don't forget the weight of that car. It's going to affect life because it is the heaviest within that leading pack, as you say. But what's intriguing me is how Blomqvist is getting away. Look, he's done the fastest lap of the race. He was a second to the good at the start of this 6th lap. He's now pulled another 10th in the first sector. And Farfus, the pole man, does need to go away and think about his starts, because again he's been let down by a poor getaway. Now for RBM it's still a 1-2, just like MTech had a 1-2 yesterday. But can Farfus do anything about Blomqvist? Can he do it on track, or would it have to be done on the pit stops, if at all, to try and pounce over his teammate? Maxime Martin, Christian Vittoris, Jamie Green. And there is Paffett behind Robert Wickens, and he has Eduardo Mortara, who you said was less than complimentary yesterday. Behind him, DRS is enabled now. That allows the drivers to use that DRS to give them that extra little boost. And we have 10 minutes of the race duration done and dusted. So through that first turn they go. Jamie Green then in the Audi, down there in P11, just out of the points at the moment. We're on board with Matthias Ekström. Now, of course, he's in P12, and absolutely necessary for Eki to get himself into the points, isn't it? And he's got one Audi ahead of him and then a BMW. Yeah, but the Audi ahead of him is somebody else who's still in with a shout at winning the championship. Yep. DRS is now enabled, incidentally, so expect a little bit more shuffling, certainly on the pit straight. There's Vittoris being given a hard time by Maxime Martin now, and Jamie Green is behind the two of them. Green, remember, in a heavy car because of the weight that he's having to lug around. 3 times a winner this year, Jamie Green, 1132.5 kilos, but behind him is an even heavier car. Matthias Ekström, 1137.5. Vittoris just being reminded about tyre pressures. Martin has a look at the end of the back straight. Can't find a way by there. So Christian Vittoris fending him off, but they're all starting to stack up behind him, aren't they? Martin, don't forget, is in one of the lightest cars on the grid. The minimum weight carried by that at 11.05. Vittoris, winner here last year's on 11.22.5. So he's doing a good job to keep the lighter car at bay. The lead gap is 1.4 seconds now, Blomqvist to Farfus. And of course, the advantage Maxime Martin will have is that he will have DRS and Christian Vittoris will not. So Martin should, in theory, be able to make easy work of this.
Indeed, and the same is true of Green and of Ekstrom because they've got DRS to play with, and up front it's the same for Farfus. Blomqvist now, you could argue, is a sitting duck, allowing for the fact, though, that to get past at the end of the pit straight, you've got to be very, very committed on the brakes, and so it's not an easy pass for Farfus. But remember, at the Lausitz ring, Jamie Green, without DRS, was able to battle his way into the lead and even was able to keep people with DRS at bay. So it doesn't automatically follow in the DTM that just because you're within DRS reach, you're going to breeze on by. So Blomqvist leads by 1.4 seconds. We're on lap 8. The battle you're looking at is for 9th. It's Vitoris ahead of Martin. Then it's Green. Then it's Ekstrom. And then it is Bruno Spangler. Now, some very crude maths suggested that without a safety car, we might be looking at 43 laps. And so from about lap 11/12, the pit window may well be considered by drivers to come in and see whether if we get a late safety car, they can buy some track position. As you see there, Mortara getting up the inside of Robert Wickens. So at the moment we're on lap 8, but if we're getting towards a 43-44 lap race, now obviously factoring in that safety car period, we're not too far away from perhaps the people that might roll the dice early getting ready for a stop.
So at the moment, Vitoris then is still able to hold Martin at bay. And you can see the DRS deployed by Maxime Martin as he dives up the inside of Christian Vitoris now. Perfect execution, lock up from Bruno Spangler, but Maxime Martin did that and did that in style.
So that puts him then up into 9th place. Very good move indeed. Jamie Green wanted to try to follow through, but instead, actually, he is being chased and given a hard time by Matthias Ekstrom, and then Spangler buying back into it as well. But Maxime Martin, great move that, up the inside.
And what Martin needs to do is get up the road now so that it doesn't allow Christian Vitoris to have the DRS to come back at him next time around.
Indeed so, as we have there Matthias Ekstrom still running in his 12th place, defending from Spangler, chasing Jamie Green. Early championship leader, of course, and look, Martin is getting away now. Okay, part of that is the weight, part of it is because Vitoris is having to think about defending rather than driving his own lines. We have 46.5 minutes just under, plus 1 lap to go, and Ekstrom, you're riding with, comes onto the back straight, chasing Green.
So there is Maxime Martin. That was absolutely textbook use of DRS and being able to scrub the speed into that turn 1. He did it really, really well. Christian Vitoris, as you've rightly said, is having to focus now on defending from Jamie Green. Here it is in replay then. Set this up absolutely perfectly.
And although Vitoris thought about trying to close the door, Martin was committed to it. He gave him racing room, and Jamie Green did have a cheeky look to see if it was possible, but it wasn't to be. So over the line they come. Martin 9th now. Vitoris is 10th. 11th it's Green, and it's only 0.3 of a second between them. And Jamie Green is going to have a look at the end of the straight. Yes. Can he get it slowed down? Yes. Can he hang on to the place? Yes. Vitoris out wide, and Ekstrom buys into it as well. Great stuff. Almost contact. Spangler into the side of Vitoris.
He rattled into the side of him, didn't he? And he's gone through. So Vitoris was absolutely mugged there.
Absolutely right. So Matthias Ekstrom with opportunistic driving goes through. Great pass by Jamie Green. And Christian Vitoris then now is down in 13th place, having had his hat well and truly nailed on. First by Jamie Green, who went through, and well done, Jamie, got it round the corner. Vitoris then ended up on the wrong line, so through went Ekstrom, and here comes Spangler. Bang!
Yes, I'm coming through as well, chap.
Yes.
Stand aside. Well, so Christian Vitoris then having a really, really tough time of it. And now Green and Ekstrom, look at them get up the road. On board with Matthias Ekstrom now.
And don't forget, these are 2 of the heaviest cars on the grid, and yet released from the traffic, they're flying.
There's Maxime Martin. He's made haste his escape, truthfully, hasn't he?
Whereas the lead gap, incidentally, between Blomqvist and Farfus is 2.5 seconds. Antonio Felix da Costa still runs 3rd. 4th is Wittmann. 5th is Wehrlein. 6th is De Resta.
That would indicate everything's okay.
I think that's positive.
Yes.
Feedback from Matthias Ekstrom to the team. So he's been involved in a few scrapes. Is everything okay? Yes, comes the answer. Antonio Felix da Costa is under attack now. Look from Marco Wittmann. Accelerating their way down towards triple. It's this long left with effectively 3 bites at the corner. And then down towards turn number 6, out of which the leaders have already gone. But now Tom Blomqvist with 2.5 seconds worth of an advantage. He's looking pretty hard to stop.
He is flying, isn't he? Absolutely flying. Now, we made the point earlier that, of course, he's got experience of this Oschersleben circuit, hasn't he? Both from his single-seater career and also tested here for DTM.
Yeah, this is the only venue at which you are allowed to test pre-season. And, of course, that will have really helped Blomqvist. Everywhere else he's going, he's got to learn the track in some cases, but certainly learn how it is in a DTM car compared to Formula 3. But here, it's a more confident Tom Blom. He's also been hit quite a lot this year by reliability issues. So, assuming that there aren't any of those lurking up the road, then 2.5 seconds is a nice cushion to have. He's just gone through now ahead of Augusto Farfus, and the gap is 2.7. Now, Da Costa, in the meantime, in the Red Bull BMW, is going to have to keep an eye to his mirrors with Marco Wittmann there. Look, the reigning champion, number 1, right on the tail of him now. 5th, still behind, is Pascal Wehrlein. Spangler in the pit lane. Bruno Spangler into the pits. Now it's a very long drive down the pit road here. It's about 30 seconds for a pit stop, even allowing for the work done on the car. But I'm just wondering whether this is the team's roll of the dice to do the mandatory stop early, or whether the car has suffered a bit in the incidents it's had already.
Yeah.
And we'll find out in a moment as the board is waved. The team is ready, so it looks like a mandatory stop, doesn't it?
So, as you say, this is a roll of the dice, isn't it? So,
Pit stop light 1, pit stop light 1, and push now. Bruno, you have to push as much as you can now.
And that was a quick stop, 2.7 seconds.
And Bruno knows what he's got to do, so he's back behind the wheel of a car on fresh tyres now. Away he goes. There's no fuel to be put in, it's just the tyre change. Out of the pit lane he goes, so that's going to drop him right to the bottom. And he'll have to push. And of course, were he now to be in a situation where there was another safety car period, he's in the box seat.
Absolutely.
Because everybody else ahead of him would have to pit and he'll just sail on through. So that's what he hopes. And look, more are coming in. Farfus is in. Da Costa is in. Wittmann is in. And also in his Timo Glock. So BMW really rolling the dice early here.
So there you can see just how long that pit in is. Augusto Farfus, Antonio Felix da Costa, Marco Wittmann and Timo Glock. Also in Jamie Green and Matthias Ekström.
And Vitoris and Paffett. So a lot of them coming in all on the same principle at the end of lap 13 to try to get the stop out of the way and then see whether they can buy track position late in the race. Now let's also keep an eye to this and see if anybody makes a bad pit stop and therefore loses position. Away goes Wittmann, who does not quite get out ahead of Da Costa, but it was close. Rockenfeller's just been run out wide on the grass. Timo Glock comes down the pit lane, still ahead of Jamie Green, who is still ahead of Ekström, who is still going to be ahead of Paffett, who has got himself ahead of Vitoris. So there is a change, look, because Christian Vitoris has fallen back behind Gary Paffett there.
So we're on board with Matthias Ekström as he makes his way back out onto the track. Then very busy pit lane very early on. So we will see. So Matthias Ekström back out on track. So then comes Tom Blomqvist.
At the end of lap number 12, down the pit road he comes. Sorry, at the end of lap 13, I should say. Down the pit road he comes and breaks the beam now.
Also in his Wehrlein.
Yeah.
De Resta, Tomczyk and Martin as well as Maximilian Gertz. So here comes Tom Blomqvist then. From the lead of the race, he's in. The team need to do a really good stop here. We put the clock on. Oh, 3.7, it's not the best.
White line, pit stop light.
Martin's in, as you say, so there is Blomqvist. Now there's Farfus, look, coming down the pit straight. Blomqvist should be able to stay ahead of him, but by how much? Let's just see. There's a couple of overlapping, look, coming down the pit lane behind. Blomqvist will keep the race lead ahead of Farfus. So Mortara, look, is the man that leads at the moment because he's not stopped. Sorry, he doesn't lead outright. He's ahead on the road, I should say, of the BMWs. Tomczyk is under investigation for an unsafe relief, and Timo Scheider is going to be the leader because he's not yet stopped. So Scheider on track is the leader. Now there is Jamie Green, who on the pit stops has got himself up past Maxime Martin.
So another winner in that stop.
I'll run through the order once everybody has cycled through.
Yep.
But Blomqvist it is then, who is the best placed of those that have made a stop. Wehrlein still hunting down The BMW's ahead of him through the chicane. Tomczyk under investigation then for an unsafe release. Da Costa stays ahead of Wittmann. Wehrlein is now ahead of Tomczyk, which means that Tomczyk has got ahead of De Resta. Those were the two that we had going side by side down the pit lane.
And that's hence the unsafe release.
And here it is in replay because he's absolutely into the path of De Resta. He's ahead of him. But yes, you can understand why that's being looked at, can't you?
Yes.
Because that clearly was Paul De Resta's line to have down the pit lane. Drive-through penalty for Tomczyk. A drive-through penalty for Martin Tomczyk for an unsafe release. Okay. Can't really argue with that, can you? So the Schnitzer team, which is one of the most experienced in the pit lane, I'm afraid is responsible for when the driver goes. And that was a little bit too close for the comfort of the stewards. Scheider is in and Wickens is in now.
So Timo Scheider in, Robert Wickens also come in. That means that those that have not stopped, Tombe Auer, Juncker Deyer,
Rocky,
Rockenfeller,
and Mortara.
They're the only cars, aren't they?
Right, Ekstrom's lost out on the pit stops because Spengler's back ahead of him. So what went on for Eki? Of course, in that scrub of people coming in, he lost out. So Jamie Green benefited, and Matthias Ekstrom has lost out on the pit stops. Tomczyk, incidentally, bit between his teeth.
Drive-through for unsafe release.
Change for third, look. Wittmann through on the inside then. So third of the stoppers, Wittmann has gone by Da Costa. I was about to say Tomczyk, bit between his teeth, absolute best in the first sector.
Yes.
His response to the team, not yet broadcastable.
No. So Marco Wittmann then through on Antonio Felix da Costa and will now chase down Augusto Farfus. On board with Matthias Ekstrom then. And it's a great shot as the pit stop is undertaken there, and a problem.
This is Ekstrom.
That's why there's a problem with that front.
That was why he lost the time, and it's only a tiny, tiny amount, but it's enough, isn't it, to compromise him. Tomczyk now tumbles down the order with his drive-through. A pit stop here, 30 seconds. So a drive-through going to be about, what, 26? So he will drop, drop, drop. So Tombe, for the moment, is the race leader. And the best placed of the stoppers remains Tom Blomqvist. There is the drive-through penalty now completed for Martin Tomczyk.
So he is back out on track. Where will he come out in terms of position?
Tuesday, I think. He's going to be a long, long way back now, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Unfortunately, because everybody else has gone through the first sector, and he is only now making his way through it himself. So Tombe leads. Lucas Auer has just pitted. So that's going to put Juncker Deyer second. Mike Rockenfeller up to third. Rockenfeller hoping that by staying out there, he can work his way up the order and clear track space. And Tom Blomqvist has just done the fastest lap of the race. So he's the best of the stoppers, and he's the quickest driver on track. There he is. Is this going to be his day of days?
Well, we're watching him. 1:22.555 for Tom Blomqvist.
Farfus gets past Mortara with a bit of a fight, but what can Farfus do? The gap effectively 2.6 seconds between the BMWs. That's the one to monitor still. And Tomczyk did indeed drop to 22nd. We started with 24, only 22, of course, still circulating.
Yeah.
Now, Matthias Ekstrom, in the meantime, is down in 16th spot. I know we've still got a few that will drop out of the points because they have to make their stops, but Jamie Green then ahead of Maxime Martin, currently working 13th place, turns his way out of turn 6, and the heavy Audi trying to sprint away from the much, much lighter BMW M4 DTM on the back of the RS5 as they work their way to the back straight now. On track, it's Adrian Tombe still leading, and Mike Rockenfeller has just pitted out of third place, Dave.
Yes, he has. I was just looking at the lap times for Pascal Wehrlein, who, of course, is the other one that we need to look at and think about with regards to the championship, who's 1:22.901. So there's Tom Blomqvist. There is Augusto Farfus. Then it's Edo Mortara, Marco Wittmann, Antonio Felix da Costa, then Pascal Wehrlein that we can see. Jamie Green, when you consider that that BMW of Maxime Martin behind is much lighter, doing a great job, isn't he?
Absolutely right. Yeah, Jamie by rights should have more points in the championship. He was leading in Austria, and then the gearbox failed him at the start of the second lap. A similar kind of problem, from what we can understand, that affected Matthias Extra tyres, and this is a circuit that is good for cars with a lot of aero, and that means the BMW is ideally suited to this circuit, irrespective of the weight that it's carrying. Martin proving to good effect now that he's on the back of Jamie Green and he's got the pace, but Jamie will defend. And Danny Junqueira has just become the race leader because into the pits has come Adrien Tambay.
So we continue to watch this battle between Jamie Green and Maxime Martin. And it's here where Martin needs to be right on the back of Jamie Green, whether he'll make a play for a move going into turn one. I don't think he's close enough to be able to do so. And getting ever closer is Bruno Spangler on board with Pascal Wehrlein,
who has just inherited 7th place with the pit stop for Tambay. Now bear in mind at the moment that Green and Martin are battling for 11th place. That's going to be 10th by the end of the lap with Tambay having pitted.
Yes. And
they're going to gain another place when Danny Junqueira stops, and Junqueira will fall to round about 15th, 16th place. So it's been a long stop for Mike Rockenfeller. He's down in 21st, in fact, now a long way back in the order.
And still Maxime Martin. Despite all efforts, Jamie Green, I think, is doing an outstanding job in holding that BMW at bay. And Bruno Spangler getting ever closer to the back of Maxime Martin.
Yeah, you're right, and Spangler better placed in the championship as well.
Yes. Not far off approaching half distance in the race.
And Blomqvist's lead over Farfus is 3.3 seconds. It's still Junqueira leading on track, but you can kind of ignore him, really, because we know that he's going to fall down the order. And if anybody was banking on a safety car in the second stint, it ain't coming.
No. So, Wehrlein, who has got Antonio Felix da Costa ahead of him, desperately needs to pass him. Again, Martin very, very close to Jamie Green, but still not able to get past the car. And just reinforcing how well Jamie Green is driving. And the longer these two are battling, the better it is for Bruno Spangler and arguably Matthias Ekstrom too. So they are beginning to get ever closer, but Bruno Spangler especially so. So Jamie Green again defending from Maxime Martin, who's not quite as close as he has been, but then perhaps choosing to run in the less turbulent air behind that car before making yet another attack.
Ekstrom needs to get on with this because pit stop's corrected. He's running in 11th place. Junqueira is now in, but even 11th is outside the points. So Ekstrom needs to salvage something out of this because Wehrlein's having another decent day up the road in 6th, which is now 5th because of Junqueira pitting. The only one that's not yet come in, therefore, is Mortara. Green fending off Martin still, as Blomqvist now leads Farfus by 3.6 seconds. The gap's going up all the time.
It is an incredible drive from him.
Yeah.
Got the car under him, of course, but he is having to drive it.
Mortara wide into the gravel at turn 2. Across the gravel, across the grass. And Jamie Green is about to pounce and go through Mortara.
He's in all sorts of trouble there, isn't he?
He's really struggling.
Copy, Edo. If it's dangerous, then you know what to do.
He was saying he can't really drive, but the car, I think, is bound for the pit lane at the end of this lap. He's going to have to pit, isn't he, with that? So Edo Mortara limps on. So it was a problem going through turn 1, and you saw how the car struggled its way all the way around turn 2, round turn 3. And something has gone awry. It's not just tyres going off after a long stint. It's something more fundamental than that, but he's going to bring it to the pit lane. So here he is, look, running wide onto the grass, across the gravel. The gravel changes the direction as it digs in, gets out of there, but the race has gone for Mortara. Austrian race winner this year and in strife here. Blomqvist, Farfus, Wittmann, the top 3 all over the line. So Mortara parked it early yesterday. Looks like he's going to be a retirement today as well as there. Look, Da Costa coming under pressure from Wehrlein. Some of the Audi hopes in the championship now rest on BMW, don't they, to stack up Wehrlein?
Yes, you're right.
Mortara has pitted. So we lose the Castrol Edge Audi, as in the meantime Wehrlein still stares at the back of Antonio Felix da Costa. Right, Mortara had never made his mandatory stop, but it doesn't really matter because he's going to be a retirement, and that means that now everybody has done the regulation stop. We are on lap 22 with 28 minutes plus a lap to go, and there's no question about that. Mortara, with the car unsafe to drive, heads straight for the pit box and retirement.
So we have the real race order, and Antonio Felix da Costa. Here is the championship prediction as it stands at the moment. Pascal Wehrlein will have 140 points, and Matthias Ekstrom 126, Edo Mortara 110, Jamie Green 107.
Now Wehrlein creeping up onto the back there, but not yet being able to attack. So Jamie Green 8th. Where is he in relation to the traffic ahead? He's 3.9 seconds back from Timo Glock. Leaders come through then, and the gap's still 4.3 seconds. Blomqvist every lap is getting away from Augusto Farfus here. Off the road, they're red flagged. The clock carries on ticking, so you lose track time that way. He's had some mechanical woes this year as well, in fairness to him, but here everything has just hooked up well.
So super slow-mo replay then of Pascal Wehrlein chasing down that Antonio Felix da Costa car. It's the battle for P5. Pascal Wehrlein desperate to bank as many points as he possibly can in his championship charge. He is by far and away the best Mercedes in the championship. He has Paul di Resta on track behind him in P6, but at the moment he still is looking, as David has said, at the back of that Antonio Felix da Costa BMW, which he does need to get past.
I mean, even 5th, as you've seen on the graphic, will extend the championship lead. Ekstrom is still outside the points, but significantly, Ekstrom now is 9/10ths back from Bruno Spangler. So Ekstrom now is in a position whereby he can at least claim a point. He can get into that top 10 with a bit of work, but he's on the door knocking now. There's Wehrlein into the braking zone at turn 1. Da Costa, Zandvoort winner. Wehrlein tucked up behind him. Pascal Wehrlein has had a couple of victories this year, of course. And the Mercedes driver accelerates up to turn 4. The last lap by Antonio Felix da Costa was fractionally quicker than Pascal Wehrlein. But again, you could argue that so it should be, because he's in a lighter car.
Yes. So remind you, in the race yesterday, a power steering fault with Pascal Wehrlein's car meant that he had to drive that with no power steering assistance at all. So arms like Adonis now, hasn't he? But as he chases down Antonio Felix da Costa, who, to be fair, you're quite right, he's in a lighter car, doing a good job in defence, but Pascal is keeping with him. He a bit further back now than he has been. You can see the live gap now, which has been increased a little bit by Antonio Felix da Costa by a 10th or so.
Yeah, Wehrlein said after yesterday the effect of no power steering was like having 2 kilos strapped to each wrist and having to try and drive with 2 kilos weighing you down. So a bit like Popeye this morning, I think. There's been a delivery of spinach at Mercedes. The leaders have gone by. Marco Wittmann is creeping up onto the back of Farfus now. In 4th and 5th, there they are. Antonio Felix da Costa still keeping Wehrlein at bay. 6th is di Resta, 7th is Glock, 8th is Green, 9th is Martin, and those two are together. And then 10th and 11th, Spangler versus Ekstrom, and that gap actually has just crept up a little bit as Spangler extends it slightly over the Swede.
Pascal there with a little bit of a lock-up into turn 1 as he's continuing to chase down Antonio Felix da Costa, and perhaps is getting ever more frustrated that he's not able to get a little bit closer and actually try and put a move together. But as you rightly said right at the start of the programme, this is a very difficult place to overtake anyway, isn't it?
Even with that DRS. So Pascal Wehrlein closing a little bit mid-corner onto the back of Antonio Felix da Costa, but plus a lap to go. And Wehrlein there running a little bit wide and losing more time.
Just, you know, with that lock-up and that little wide running bit there, he's...
80 laps to go, 80 laps to go. Wait for degradation, look for your chance. Difficult to test drive. Card ranking, Spangler 15, Ekstrom 11, Green 8. 8 Green. Good job, Antonio. Gain 3 tenths on my last lap. 11, Ekstrom.
going to say before that team radio, he's beginning to look a little ragged, isn't he?
Yeah, maybe. And looking after his tyres and waiting for the Costa's tyres to go off is the plan.
Switch on pit stop light manually in your car. Pit stop light on manually in your car. Waste control.
So the light tells everybody that a car has made a pit stop. It's an identification aid for the fans trackside. It's all right for us with the timing screen. I'm a bit busy trying to race here.
Yes.
Tell me where the button is. Come on. So Wehrlein has got more things to consider now. And while he's pondering which switch to flick, so Antonio Felix da Costa's getting away.
That just shows, doesn't it, how if your concentration is broken and you're worrying about something as trivial as that, for trivial in his mind, of course, while he's racing, that has cost, hasn't it?
But if the light doesn't go on and race controller telling him that it's got to be...
Is he going to be penalised for that?
Give me a minute to delve into my regulations. I'll come back to you on that one, but the gap has widened. It's up to 8 tenths now between those two.
Okay, as he boots up the DTM regulations laptop, Antonio Felix da Costa then with that light on, and you can clearly see that light on, and Pascal Wehrlein, quite so obvious yet. Now he may have found the switch, he may not have done, to use that DRS, as you can see. Yes, he has found the light and it's on now, so...
It's on, good job, thank you.
You can turn the laptop off as well, David.
That sorts that one out then.
Yes, it does rather.
So that was another possible opportunity for Audi that's just gone begging.
Yes, it was just under the wiper button, I think.
Yes, that's right. Yes. The cup holder sprang open as well, but anyway. So Wehrlein has found the light switch. He's good. The pit stop ident light is on. No further dramas there. Now he can concentrate again on catching Antonio Felix da Costa, can't he? Now what's going on between Spangler and Ekstrom for 10th? The gap's down from a second to 7 tenths. Still Blomqvist is running away with this.
Look at the gap he's got.
6 seconds, give or take, a 10th. And then Wittmann is third.
17 laps, 16 laps to go.
Extraordinary pace that Tom Blomqvist has. Pascal Wehrlein, you can see the rear wing down as he used that DRS and headed towards the turn 1. Sorry, I was distracted by my mic on light button.
I see. 16 more laps takes you to 43, doesn't it? So the calculations that we were working on aren't far off, as now, look, Ekstrom is right on the back of Spangler as they work their way out of turn 2, and Martin is on the back of Jamie Green. Can Ekstrom make a dive up the inside at the Hasseröder curve? I don't think he's quite close enough. Spangler hard at work, and Ekstrom is doing all of this to try to salvage 1 point out of 2 races, because otherwise it's going to be the most barren weekend for him. He had his worst ever qualifying in the DTM yesterday. Yes. Flat last. He got 1 place up on the grid because Lucas Auer was penalised for blocking, but Ekstrom came here on a bit of a high, and it's been a miserable weekend for him.
It has, and if he can salvage 1 point, and he's doing his level best to do that. We're on board with Matthias Ekstrom now as he chases down that Bruno Spangler car, the BMW bank liveried car that you see through the S's now. There is Matthias Ekstrom.
Not giving up, is he, though?
No, he's throwing everything at this, isn't he?
And Ekstrom's another of those drivers, and they're a relatively rare breed, and actually Spangler is another who will always drag a result out of a car. He will never, ever give up. And so Ekstrom's attitude is it's worth persevering, because you never know, something might happen up the road and I can get that 1 point, whereas others kind of get all dispirited. But Ekstrom pounds on, and he's now even closer, 6 tenths back from Spangler, and now if he can start to apply the pressure, he might be able to force a mistake. But of course, a lot of this was down to that pit stop.
Yes.
Had it not been a bad pit stop, he would be in the points.
Absolutely. So he's having to put right that problem, and he's working jolly hard to try and do so. Also on the back of Jamie Green there is Maxime Martin, who's ever closer, isn't he?
That's right.
In the meantime, Tom Blomqvist is very nearly in Hanover. 6.1 margin over Augusto Farfus. It's outstanding.
Extraordinary drive, absolutely. And Blomqvist, to be fair, hasn't put a wheel wrong either, has he? You know, he's not been gifted this. He's not lucked into it. There's Maxime Martin's rear wing drop, so he's in the DRS against Jamie Green now for 8th place, but that doesn't actually help him very much, does it?
No, doesn't seem
surprising. It's not like he ran out of straight. He wasn't really on the back of Green even when they got to the end of it.
No.
So Jamie Green, 8th, which will help him a little. Wehrlein is still there in 5th spot. He's not going to be caught, is he, by Paul de Resta, because de Resta's unlikely to take points away from the championship leader, for whom he is a teammate, effectively, because they're both Mercedes drivers. So there is Green, there is Martin. There's the Spangler-Ekstrom battle with Timo Scheider 12th behind them. Ekstrom now then turning his way through turn 2. He's right there, isn't he? Now he can start to really apply the pressure to Spangler.
This in replay, Antonio Felix da Costa and Pascal Wehrlein. Super slow-mo shot.
14 laps to go, Bruno. 14 laps.
So Bruno Spangler being told 14 laps to go.
Which takes us to the 43 because of that safety car period. And there is, in replay, Pascal Wehrlein, half a second back from Antonio Felix da Costa as he tries to chip away in that Guick-backed Mercedes. So where's the other fight going to come from? Well, it's not for the lead, is it? Because
no.
Tom Blomqvist is so far up the road now. Back on board with Wehrlein. Down to the Zeppelin Cap curva as he heads up towards the timing line behind Antonio Felix da Costa. 4th and 5th they run. Remember that Wehrlein is the best place driver in anything other than a BMW in this race at the moment.
Now, Pascal Wehrlein under investigation. Infringement of Article 39.12. If you could just dial that up, I suspect it will be with regard to that pit stop light, but we will see. So he continues his quest to get past Antonio Felix da Costa, which, despite having DRS, he's not been able to do that thus far. So further message says he will be reported to the stewards of the meeting for that infringement, but I think it's unlikely that he'll be penalised for that.
Well,
okay.
Let me read it to you. Go with this. 39.12. During or immediately following a correct tyre change, an orange signalling lamp must be activated by a team member on each side of the car. This lamp may also be activated by the driver. In this case, the lamp must be activated at latest when he crosses the line for the second time after the tyre change. Now, we were hearing that radio traffic in the late lap 20s, weren't we? And Wehrlein came in on 13. He's certainly been over the line more than twice.
Okay.
It'll go to the stewards, but what the regulations don't tell me is what kind of penalty might follow for that. But it could be that a time penalty is added.
Okay, well, that will unravel itself.
15 minutes to go. 15 minutes.
Later, as Maxime Martin continually trying to get on the back of Jamie Green, and he's ever closer now. Jamie Green running just a little bit wider. Maxime Martin not quite able to take advantage. This is for P8 in the race. The race that is being led by Tom Blomqvist with very nearly 7 seconds worth of margin ahead of Augusto Farfus in P2. Then it's Marco Wittmann, Antonio Felix da Costa, Pascal Wehrlein, Paul de Resta before we get back to Timo Glock P7. And then it's this battle between Jamie Green and Maxime Martin that we watch right now with just under 14 minutes of the race left to run, plus 1 lap. So you can see the DRS being deployed by Maxime Martin, and the wing flips back up again. Onto the Audi pit wall we go. Jamie Green doing a fantastic job in defence here. Doing a fantastic job leading this race in super slow-mo replay is Tom Blomqvist.
Absolutely. Now, last time, for the first time in many, many laps, the gap came down by a couple of tenths of a second, but it's still 6.8.
11 laps to go.
So front tyres starting to struggle now late in the race, and if that's because you're sitting in the dirty air by the car ahead, that's why Ekstrom's dropping back. He's 1.1 seconds behind. He's away from the DRS range, but actually that wasn't helping him anyway, was it?
No, it didn't seem to be. No, it certainly didn't seem to be. Sticking with it, though, is Maxime Martin. He's been relentless in terms of keeping behind Jamie Green, but Jamie Green's been equally relentless in terms of not giving him any opportunity at all, and not really had a chance, has he? This is Pascal Wehrlein, who just makes an adjustment to the brake bias there.
As he closes once more onto the back of Antonio Felix da Costa. The gap was 0.6 of a second. So, of course, now Wehrlein is back within DRS range. The race leader, Tom Blomqvist, has just gone by, and it's a long wait before Augusto Farfus does likewise in the Shell Helix BMW. The gap is 6.8 seconds. It's come down again by hundredths. Third and lonely is Wittmann. Fourth, still busy defending here, Antonio Felix da Costa as they head past the timing line. Then you've got Wehrlein running behind him. Next in the queue is Paul de Resta for 6th spot. 7th is Timo Glock, and this is Wehrlein's view into turn 1. 11 3/4 minutes plus a lap to go now. Ekstrom with the front tyres getting off, falling away.
Well, Antonio Felix da Costa being motivated, not that he needs it. He is doing a great job, isn't he, out there in P4, and he's certainly untroubled by the pressure that Pascal Wehrlein has kept on him, but hasn't put a foot wrong. And Pascal Wehrlein then on board with him now in the Mercedes, running in P5, which means points haul for Pascal Wehrlein, and with Matthias Ekstrom with his diminishing front tyres running in P11, no points for him.
The only good thing that Audi can really take away collectively from the weekend is that they will shed weight for the next race at the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
But allowing for that, Jamie Green is the one hero for Audi, because he's the only Audi driver that's going to score points in this race. Extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah. And I know the manufacturers start to moan about weight, but, you know, there are days when it goes your way and other days when it goes against you. So, you know, everybody sort of moaned a bit because at Zandvoort the BMWs were so light, and it's happening again here. But there are other occasions where the other cars are lighter, and equally, Wehrlein is still running up there being competitive, so it's not a complete domination by BMW.
So he closes right on the back of Antonio Felix da Costa through that first part of the hotel turn.
Wehrlein, you've got to say, is another proper trier. Yesterday, with fail power steering to battle on the way he did, was very impressive indeed, and he's never given up here, has he?
No. And for my money, he looks just a little bit closer to da Costa now.
I would go along with that, but still not easy to find a way by, is it? It's going to be difficult.
Tom Blomqvist in the meantime.
10 laps to go. Keep pushing, Bruno. We can catch Maxime. Keep pushing.
Quick word about Adrian Tournbay, incidentally. Started 23rd. He's running in 14th place, one of the big movers in the race. Spangler being told to get on after Maxime Martin, who is 2 seconds up the road. So Spangler now gapping Ekstrom. Doesn't have to think about defending. Now he can carry on with his own race. Go after fellow BMW driver Maxime Martin. So there is Tom Blomqvist. An excellent effort this for the RBM team.
Increased that margin now.
Yeah.
8 laps, Pascal, 8 laps to go.
So with 8 laps to go, Pascal, I just can't think that he's got anything more that he can possibly throw at Antonio Felix da Costa. He is closer now than he has been. And from our heli, you can see 2 of the battles going on. Jamie Green running just a little bit wider than Maxime Martin, but Martin not close enough to be able to take advantage of that. And Bruno Spangler being encouraged to get onto the back of Maxime Martin also. And you can just see Bruno Spangler into that picture now.
And Martin has not given up either, has he? He's chased Green race long, really, here. At Mercedes, the HWA team still looking at 5th place for Wehrlein, 6th for de Resta. And then the next of the Mercedes, you've got to go down to 13th to find Paffett. So Blomqvist has just gone through. 8 minutes remain. He's lapping consistently. He's done another lap in the 123s. Farfus now breaks the beam, and he's 7.4 seconds back.
Absolutely remarkable driving from Tom Blomqvist. Here's Antonio Felix da Costa then, and well, he's pulled it out from Pascal Wehrlein once again, hasn't he? Pascal really close, is under heavy braking for that turn. Loved by fans, not necessarily embraced by all the drivers in quite the enthusiasm.
But this man will love Oschersleben after this. Tom Blomqvist then is going to potentially, after a very, very difficult debut season, add his name to the list of winners, isn't he? We've had 9 different race winners this year, and this will be a 10th different one. Tom Blomqvist then, in what has been a very open season, and certainly this new format of 2 races a weekend and separate qualifying sessions for them has given us very jumbled results day to day, never mind meeting to meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, what has gone in race 1 on the Saturday, the shorter race of the 2, there's not necessarily any relation to what will happen in race 2. Of course, race 2 is the longer of the races with the mandatory pit stop. And there is Tom.
24.0 for green, 24.0.
So Blomqvist with 7.7 seconds of margin over that man in P2, Augusto Farfus.
6 laps to go, mate. 6 laps to go.
So the drivers being counted down to 43 laps of racing. Farfus powers towards us, and he'll be frustrated with this because somewhere over the course of the last hour that car has just lost a few tenths per lap, and it all adds up. And a lot of it, I fear, was down to the start. If he'd have stayed ahead of Blomqvist, it would have been Tom struggling initially in the dirty airflow and perhaps dropped back. But Farfus, again, just like Zandvoort, if he'd made a better start, we could be looking at a different result here.
Here comes Wehrlein once again, who haven't counted the laps. I know the friend next to me probably has spent an awful lot of them stuck behind and looking at the back end of that Antonio Felix da Costa BMW.
24 of them, I would roughly calculate. They came in on different laps, so Wehrlein, since he joined in after his pit stop, he stopped later. That was about 24 laps to go, has had nothing really to look at bar the back of that BMW.
No. The advantage, or the benefit perhaps, that Wehrlein has is, of course, that he is running in P5. He has got points. Of course, he'd rather have the points for P4, but Matthias Ekström is still out of the points in P11, and in truth, Spangler is getting away from him. So will Pascal now try and find something else over the final 5 laps to throw at that BMW ahead?
5 more laps to go. 5 more laps.
There is Blomqvist who goes through. Then it's an awful long time before we see the Augusto Farfus car, and then Marco Wittmann in P3. So second win for Matthias Ekström, then Bruno Spangler's race engineer and advises. Of course, 1 point would be better than none point, wouldn't it, for Matthias Ekström?
I still can't get over what a great drive this is by the Brit, Tom Blomqvist. Of course, he's the son of the former World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist, and after what has been a very difficult season, it would have been so easy for Blomqvist to get a bit carried away, given the race lead for the first time, but he's not made a single mistake.
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. And that would and should really, really impress everyone, because it has been a faultless drive from Tom Blomqvist. There is Bruno Spangler and Matthias Ekström coming back at him now. The final fling to try and unsettle Bruno ahead.
We can see Pascal don't take too much risk. P5 at the moment, Spangler P10, Ekström P11.
So Pascal being advised not to take too much risk. It's just not worth bidding it, is it?
Exactly.
You're better off banking those points.
Precisely, because the championship lead is going to increase, so just settle with it. That's good advice. And again, you see if he is struggling in a given part of the lap, it's because he's in the dirty air. The aero of his car is being compromised. Antonio Felix da Costa then has done another good job in this race, hasn't he? Because he has not cracked under the intense pressure that he's had for certainly 2/3 of the race from Pascal Wehrlein, who's got that Damocletian investigation still to think about post-race.
Yeah.
But the indications are that that might be more of a monetary fine than anything else, which will affect the team rather than the driver. But DTM.com will tell you more about that once the stewards have deliberated. Meantime, in the garages, they sit, they watch the screens.
3 laps to go.
So Blomqvist is on lap number 40 now. Or 40 laps done, rather. He's just gone on to lap 41. And they're still charging on is Pascal Wehrlein. But he's not falling away from the Portuguese driver, is he? Antonio Felix da Costa is still just about within touching distance.
And, you know, he's another one, and you said this earlier, a bit like Matthias Ekstrom and one or two others, that he's always going to be there right till the bitter end, isn't he? And if he is there right until the bitter end, if Antonio Felix da Costa should make an error, he will be there ready to take advantage of it. However, on the performance that we've seen thus far, I don't think da Costa is for shaking, is he?
No, that's right.
Although Pascal again gets very, very close to him in the closing stages of this race. But in truth, he's been like concrete, that BMW of number 13, hasn't he? It's not being moved.
Absolutely not. Resolute has been the defence. So through triple they go, lap 42. It's a minute and a half plus 1 lap that we're anticipating. Meantime, at BMW, they're starting to get ready for more celebrations. What a weekend it's been for different teams, for different drivers. Yesterday it was all about M-Tech. Today it's all about RBM, racing Bart Mampé.
2 more laps, 2 more laps.
And Wehrlein looks set for 5th. Jamie Green has been another good defender in this race.
Yes.
The way that Maxime Martin has shadowed him but really struggled to find a way past again illustrates the nature of the circuit. And there, look, the DRS enabled, the wing drops, doesn't do him very much good. The nature of the aero on the cars and how DRS, more in this than Formula One, really isn't that much of a boon.
No, would appear not.
Right, there's time for this lap and one more. They're on lap 42 now.
So Blomqvist with a 7.7 second margin to the good over Augusto Farfus, who's P2, Marco Wittmann P3, then it's Antonio Felix da Costa and Pascal Wehrlein, who you see here, P4 and P5. Then it's Paul de Resta, who's been a bit lonely really, in P6. Timo Glock equally, P7, and then it's been Jamie Green, who's held off Maxime Martin for P8 and P9, and then Bruno Spangler in P10. So despite his engineer pushing him, Spangler has not got onto the back of Maxime Martin.
No, he's dropped away actually, hasn't he? From 2 seconds, 2.3, and Lucas Auer off the road right at the very end of the race. He's in the tyres, well embedded, and he did it coming up towards the last corner, loses downforce behind Wickens, across the gravel, across the grass, and bang, and that's a heavy impact. He's done a lot of damage to the barriers there, never mind the car. And so that's going to be a red flag. Race stopped.
Red flag.
The race is stopped. And Tom Blomqvist.
Flag, mate. You're a DTM race winner. You're a DTM race winner. Congratulations, man. Fantastic drive. Impressive. Pick up, pick up.
No restart, of course, and pick-up means drive over the marbles to add to the weight of the car to be safe for the weight post-race. So Tom Blomqvist, he may not have taken the checkered flag, which is a little frustrating, but he's a race winner. Red flag because of Lucas Auer's car in a dangerous place on the last lap. Effectively, he's okay, which is the good news, but that was a massive hit into the barriers, wasn't it? And you saw the way that the Armco just crumpled behind the tyre wall. No wonder Lucas Auer is rather winded after that.
Yes, it was. The car really took off, didn't it, as the impact was made. Well, Tom backstage, there's plenty of celebrations going on down there.
And they'll all sprint out to receive Tom, who's got the wiper on in his jubilation. But a 1-2 finish for Racing Bart Mampé, winless last year.
Yeah.
So a tremendous result for the team that masterminded Andy Prio to World Touring Car success going back a few years.
And there is Tom Blomqvist. There is Augusto Farfus, and now it's Marco Wittmann, the 1-2-3 in that DTM race, which cut short right at the very, very end there with the red flag for Lucas Auer having gone into the barriers, and there is Lucas Auer being attended to by the team, who are quick onto him to make sure he's all okay.
And he's standing, he'll be shaken, he'll be bruised, he'll be sore.
Yes.
There'll be some burns, I would have thought, from the seatbelts, which would have stretched a bit on impact there. But curious that he just lost the downforce, and you saw the speed, because that gravel track wasn't for stopping him. But BMW score victory, and Jens Marquardt, I should imagine, Verena, is delighted.
Oh, I'm sure he's delighted, even though he was still having a look at because of the red flag. But obviously, everything is fine, is there. So now, time to celebrate. You did a fantastic job, your team. Oh my God, first 4 positions once again, BMW. How happy are you?
Well, first of all, I didn't do the job. The guys did a fantastic job. I'm really super happy, and I mean, heads up for Tom Blomqvist. Bloody hell. Rookie, and yeah, from second, good start, and then just was driving off into the sunset. Bloody hell.
He was
really
just
impressive.
I'm
really happy for Bart, because obviously with Augusto front 2 on the podium as well, and then Marco behind, strong race as well. Antonio fighting off Pascal Wehrlein really strongly, so super happy for the guys, and yeah, today is the day to celebrate.
But Tom really was in a completely different sphere, wasn't he? He was just so far ahead. What was going on there?
Well, he was driving on a different planet today somehow. I don't know. I mean, this was a bit, well, not as dominant as Timo did yesterday, but also, I mean, for a guy to drive out of the DRS window and then basically stay away and pull away, really strong.
Congratulations, enjoy, celebrate, and back to you.
Thank you, Verena. As we see Augusto Farfus out of the car. Haven't seen Tom out yet. Marco Wittmann certainly out of his car. I think the door's opening on the Blomqvist machine now. There he is, making his way out. You and I have spoken about him lots and lots. His Formula 3 career before coming into DTM, and there he is. And as his boss has just said, he was driving in a different planet, wasn't he?
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And it shows what a difference data and experience makes, because here he's done his young driver test, his pre-season testing, and more confident with car and track. Augusto Farfus for second place still looks delighted with that. I suppose after a pretty lean year, that's still a good result. Gary Paffett comes over to say well done to Tom. There's Marco Wittmann. And first-time winner, Tom Blomqvist. Marco Wittmann will remember his first win, so he knows what the feeling is like. And it's a great shame the race had to end with a red flag, but it's understandable. But Tom Blomqvist is the winner, and how much relief must he feel after what has been, let's be fair, a pretty rotten season.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
And his best result coming into this was 7th, a brace, in fact, because he equalled it yesterday.
Yes.
But a tremendous turnaround today. Fantastic job. So our 10th different winner of the season. And as you look down across the infield, which has been busy all weekend, down into the pit lane, rather more worrying aspect is that barrier damage, which will delay the program for the remainder of the day at the Oschersleben track, I should say, after Lucas Auer's big accident. But to recap the top 3, Marco Wittmann then, a lonely 3rd place, but part of the BMW domination of round 14 here at Oschersleben. Augusto Farfus 2nd, and but for an average start, again, it could have been a different story, but he was just beaten away from the line, and he was never really able to fight back after that, as Blomqvist built the advantage before and after the safety car, before and after the pit stops. And so Tom Blomqvist becomes our 10th different winner of the season, and the British driver for BMW is the winner at Oschersleben today. And there is Bart Mampe, a very happy man. All smiles on the pit wall. And quite often, it's the teams that get recognised when it goes wrong, and the manufacturer that gets recognised when it goes right. But Bart Mampe and his men have done a great job. Tom Blomqvist is all smiles. And there, Lucas Auer's Mercedes is craned away, and the deformed barrier and the tyre stacks being attended to now by the track staff. So BMW 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Augusto Farfus there will go to the podium, and an RBM 1-2 finish.
So as we look at the slow-mos once again of the Tom Blomqvist car, remind you that he finished with a margin of 7.7 seconds over Augusto Farfus. That car and driver combo proving utterly unbeatable here at Oschersleben today. Race stopped towards the very end with a red flag because of Lucas Auer into the barriers, and it's Blomqvist, Farfus and Wittmann that we will be seeing up there on the podium. Pascal Wehrlein, well, he banked the points for P5 and in the championship with Matthias Ekström finishing P11. That means that Wehrlein's lead in the championship will increase going to Nürburgring, the next round of the DTM.
And Gary Paffett in replay congratulating Tom Blomqvist. Gary, one of the mainstays of the championship now, but of course Tom in his rookie season in the DTM and in racing closed roof cars, a Swedish father, but Tom spent his early years in New Zealand and then came to live in the UK. He is British these days by nationality. There's the 4th place driver Antonio Felix da Costa, and Tom initially came to attention in single-seaters in Formula Renault in the UK. Augusto Farfus with his little daughter heads towards the podium, and Tom Blomqvist then moved to race in Germany in the German F3 Championship. He's raced in New Zealand, I think I'm right in saying, in the TRS, but also the last couple of years in the European Formula 3 Championship. And Augusto Farfus, even though he's not a race winner, is still a very happy man. He's a good character, Augusto, as well. He always has been. Great value. Back to his single-seater days, he was a real star in Euro 3000, but it was also a little bit wild. He moved to Alfa Romeo in the European and World Touring Car Championship with the delectable 156s, and then became part of BMW's program after that. But Augusto Farfus then taking that 2nd spot, and Tom Blomqvist very shortly will for the first time make his way out as a race winner, and all the BMW teams are, I'm sure, in fine voice to receive Tom Blomqvist. Augusto Farfus steps forward. Most DTM weekends, I've seen Stig Blomqvist trackside. I haven't seen him this weekend, and I hope he's here, because it would be a real shame if he missed this one. But we haven't had a shot of him, but Stig does tend to keep a fairly low profile. So Tom Blomqvist, Augusto Farfus and Marco Wittmann are on the podium, and so is Bart Mampay. For Tom Blomqvist, the British national anthem, and lots of applause, not only from the teams, but from his BMW rivals on the podium, as Axel Versten from Deutsche Post steps forward to hand over the winner's trophy to Tom Blomqvist. For all of you guys, he says, and the BMW Motorsport and RBM engineers in particular can celebrate. Bart Mampay as well is a very happy man after what's been a pretty difficult start to the season. But we still perhaps are not convinced that the BMWs are the strongest of cars, as Katarina Moritor, the 2015 World Javelin Throw champion, steps forward for Augusto Farfus. But here, where they are suited to the track and the weight has been kind, they've been very, very quick indeed. And Thomas Voss, the MD of the circuit, is there to give Marco Wittmann his trophy for 3rd place. It'll be fascinating to see in a fortnight's time, when the cars go to a different type of track and gain some weight, how competitive the BMWs are. For now, though, BMW can party. Drivers together on the top step of the podium. Bart Mampay joins the photographs next to his drivers, rather than next to one from a rival team. And the BMW flags wave down below, and in the stands in front of us, I notice as well. And now, whoops, without trying to break your trophy, Marco, the Henkel Trocken can be sprayed, and Tom Blomqvist, for the first time in his career, is a DTM race winner.
Many, many congratulations to Tom Blomqvist, as they all enjoy their podium moment here at Oschersleben. What a weekend for BMW, and well, Tom is getting thoroughly drenched in Henkel Trocken.
He doesn't care, does he, though, because it is his moment.
Tom Blomqvist takes the win from Augusto Farfus and Marco Wittmann. Then it was Antonio Felix da Costa who held off Pascal Wehrlein, Paul de Resta, Timo Glock and Jamie Green. Then it's Maxime Martin, Bruno Spangler, Matthias Ekström and Timo Scheider. With Paffett P13, then it was Tomba Junckadea, Wickens, and we saw in the wall. Tom Blomqvist, the happy winner. Congratulations, Tom. Here's Verena with him.
Tom, congratulations. What an enormous job you did there. I mean, you just overtook Farfus in the very first turn, and then you aced it from there. Not one single mistake. You were in your own world. How does it feel, your first victory?
Words can't really describe the feeling now. I mean, really, it's been a tough start this season, but it's really come good on. I couldn't have thought of anything more. You know, get a win this year is unbelievable. But yeah, the guys gave me a great car today. I knew if I just managed to get into the lead, I think it would make my life a lot easier, obviously. But yeah, I was confident that if I get in the lead, I could build that gap. But I didn't think it was going to be that good. So I really have to thank BMW, Team RBM. You know, they've done a great job this weekend, I have to say.
And quite frankly, looking into your mirror, you really deserve it. And now let me grab Augusto. Augusto, obviously here a very happy winner, but unfortunately for you, because you were starting in pole and your start you just didn't ace it. You're second place, that is fantastic, but are you also a bit upset about it? I mean, victory could have happened as well for you.
Yeah, of course we were here for the victory, but I mean, he did an awesome job. My start wasn't great, the clutch was a bit aggressive, so I got wheel spin, but I'm super happy for Tom. I mean, he's a really good kid, he was working hard, and I'm super happy for the team. So, of course, I was here for the victory, but going home with a second, I did 30 points on the weekend, it's just amazing. So, I'm proud for the team, proud for Tom, so I'm happy for his victory and I'm very happy for my second place.
I was going to say you can celebrate as well. Thank you, congratulations to your second place, and I'm going to grab Marco in a bit, but back to you first.
Thank you very much, Verena. Great work as always. As we see the Drivers' Championship now, 140 points for Pascal Wehrlein, Matthias Ekström with a point less a day here. He's on 126 points. Then it's 110 for Edo Mortara, 107 for Jamie Green, 104 for Bruno Spangler. So Pascal Wehrlein goes away from Oschersleben leading the championship. And with Marco Wittmann now is Verena.
So Marco, tough race, but congratulations to third place. And you were fighting really hard, obviously. How do you feel about the third place?
Actually, I'm really happy. It was a great race. I had a phenomenal start, a phenomenal first corner where I was able to overtake both Mercedes. After the pit stop, I was pushing really to Antonio, could overtake him, and then took the third place. So I'm really happy starting from P6, finishing P3. Great result for me. Congrats to Tom for his first win, and RBM, and of course BMW. Great result.
Yeah, BMW, you guys can win. You can celebrate tonight, that's for sure. And I guess you're looking forward to the Nürburgring in 2 weeks, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have good memories last year, and it's a home race for my team RMG. So really looking forward to it. Of course, we get some weight in the car, but that just means we try to push even harder to compromise this for Nürburgring.
All right, so thank you, Marco, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at the Nürburgring. Marco, es war ein toughes Rennen, hartes Rennen. Du hast dich gut vorgekämpft. Bist du happy mit dem 3. Platz?
Ja, definitiv. Ich muss sagen, für mich war es ein Traumergebnis. Von 6 gestartet, hatte einen extrem guten Start, konnte die 2 Mercedes ausbeschleunigen und in Kurve 1 schnappen. Und dann auch nach dem Boxenstopp Antonio relativ viel Druck ausüben. Dann kam ich an ihm vorbei. Und ja, vom 6. Platz aufs Podium zu fahren, ist für mich ein unglaublich tolles Ergebnis. Auch Glückwunsch an Tom, sein erster Sieg in der DTM und für BMW natürlich ein tolles Ergebnis.
Im Moment BMW ist ja einfach Wahnsinn, was ihr hier in Oschersleben gerissen habt. Und